First and foremost, I let it give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which are the true names of the Heavenly Father and of the Son, who the world ignorantly calls Christ, who is the so-called black man. Double honors unto Elder Tahar and the rest of the elders and apostles who are in the spirit, pushing his word on fire. Peace and blessings to the elect and the sincere Abuak that are watching, listening, and learning. Right, so I wanted to get down to some history. That was the spirit that was on me. Which I want to go into Daniel 7 and verse 4. Okay, which Daniel 7 and 4 is talking about the downfall of the Syrian Empire and the uprising of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, which Neo just means revised or new. All right, so that's what I wanted to get down. Go into. We're just not going to take long, and it's good that brothers can continue to go over these breakdowns, as Apostle Tahar says, because after a while you don't go over it, or you don't go over it, you will forget it, and you don't want to forget these breakdowns. You don't want that. You want the Holy Spirit to depart from you. So we gotta continuously go over these things so we can stay in the forefront of our minds. But this is Daniel 7 and 4. Let me start with 1. It says, in the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, with Belshazzar, they said that he's the son of King Nebuchadnezzar, right? And he was the last ruler. It says Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matter, which Daniel was imparted a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And by way of that was the fast that Christians call it the Daniel fast. For 10 days, Daniel didn't eat the king's meat. This is Daniel 1 and 8. It says, but Daniel proposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the prince of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now the Most High had brought Daniel through favor and tender love with the prince of the eunuchs. And the prince of the eunuchs said unto Daniel Allah, I fear my lord the king, who hath appointed your meat and your drink. For why should he see your faces worse likened than the children which are of your sort? Then shall ye make me endanger my head to the king. Then said Daniel to Melzar, whom the prince of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, which Christians call them the 3 Hebrew boys. This is verse 12. Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink, which pulse is just vegetables and fruit. Okay, so for 10 days, we're just going to eat fruits, vegetables, okay, probably some grain, right, and just water. Verse 13. Then let our countenances be looked upon before thee, in the countenance of the children that eat of the portions of the king's meat. And as thou seest, still thy servant is right. So after 10 days, just do a compare contrast of our faces compared with the others who eats the king meat. So he consented to them in this matter and proved them 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in the flesh, and all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. That's why it's good to have a balance. Okay, that's why it's good to have a balance. Thus Melzar took away the portion of their meat and the wine that they should drink, and gave them pulse. Verse 17 is the point. As for these 4 children, the Most High gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel Allah had understanding in all visions and dreams. You see that? So that's why the Heavenly Father imparted into Daniel Allah a huge portion. Okay, he gave him Daniel 2, Daniel 7, Daniel 8, Daniel 9, Daniel 11, Daniel 12. See that? So that's what happens, man. So you brothers, you should look into going on a vegan type fast sometimes. And trust me, your spirit will increase, right? Your spirit will definitely increase. But back to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 2. Now it says here, vision for a beast, but when you read the scriptures, you already know men are likened unto beasts. It's Psalms chapter 73, verse 22. So foolish was I and ignorant. I was as a beast before thee. So see, that's what the psalmist is likening himself as a beast because he's ignorant. He was ignorant and foolish. And you see how he likens himself into a beast. Right, so this beast isn't talking about literal beasts. It's talking about nations, right? Kingdoms. Jump down to verse. All right. Start with verse 15. It says, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me know the interpretation of the things. These great beasts, which are four kings, which shall arise out of the earth. See that, which shall arise out of the earth. That's what the four beasts symbolizes. It doesn't symbolize, literal beasts. See, when you read the scriptures, a lot of times it's allegory, metaphorical. Why? Because it's a puzzle. It wasn't meant for everybody to get. This is Hosea chapter 12 and verse 10. And it reads, I have spoken by the prophets, and I have multiplied visions, and used similitudes by the ministry of the prophets. Which, let's go into that word. Similitudes. It says here, to be like, resemble, all right, compare, imagine, right, to resemble. So that's why when you break down, you have certain scriptures, like mountains. Oh, the mountains resemble or symbolizes governments or something to that effect. Go ahead and look it up in Google. It says here, the quality or state of being similar to something. Okay. It says a comparison between two things. Okay, yeah, this can be compared like beasts. Okay, beasts can be likened, or beasts resembles nations or people. All right, so scriptures ain't going to be black and white like Babylon. Babylon resembles America in the scriptures. All right, just to paint the picture there. So back to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 2. It says, behold, Salaki Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, which the great sea dealing with the Mediterranean Sea. It says, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another, and these beasts didn't literally come out of the sea. Because sea represents what? Nations and tongues. This is Revelation chapter 17, verse 15. These kingdoms, arose out of different nations. Revelation 17-15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. See that? So back to Daniel chapter 7 and verse 4. It says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings, which the lion had eagle's wings. That's dealing with the Assyrian or the Syrian empire. Okay, the Syrian Babylonian empire. All right, which the lion and eagle's wings, that actually represents the griffin. If you take a look at different paintings and archaeology of the Assyrian empire, and even with that Babylonian empire, they had an image like this. and it's called the griffin. See that lion with eagle's wings? See, lion shape, lion body, and it has eagle's wings, which I like that image. I had that image like years ago, and I can't even find it anymore. But just to show y'all, I didn't just get that out of nowhere. Griffin. Alright, see that lion, eagle's wings. Yeah, this is good right here. It's real good. And like I said, that's also Syrian. That also belongs to the Syrians as well. Alright. Lion with eagle's wings. So boom, let's go back. Daniel 7:4, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld to the wings thereof were plucked. And that's dealing with how the Assyrians got overtaken by the Babylonian Empire. And that's what I wanted to touch on. How was the Assyrian Empire taken down? Which it was led by King Nebuchadnezzar's father, Nabopolassar, in the Battle of 612, the Battle of Nineveh 612, because that's the year that it took place. All right, so this is from worldhistory.org, which, brothers, you wanna have your sources. You wanna have credible sources. Okay, you wanna have credible sources. Sources always want to be credible. Right? Don't just get shit from all these non-credible sources. Okay, you want scholarly sources. Zoom in and then I can't find where I was at. I'll show you how at the top y'all can see this. Make sure I still showing the screen. So it says in 1612 BCE, which if any elder sees this, they said that the Battle of 612, Battle of Nineveh in 612, that was prophesied in the scriptures. Now I know that the downfall of Nineveh or Assyria is prophesied in the book of Nahum, Jonah, and also Tobit mentions it as well. But I'm not sure if that battle correlates with that downfall of what the prophets were talking about. I'm not too sure. I ain't want to just go off of my own understanding. But scholars do associate that battle with what the book of Nahum, Jonah, and what Tobit was talking about. Like I said, if any elder watches this video, anybody that have understanding on the matter could fact check that. But it says in 612 BCE, Nineveh, which I believe Nineveh is the capital of Syria. It says, just double check that, fact check that. I believe that's the capital. You see how the griffin just pops up. Sure. Okay, so it says Nineveh was an ancient Assyrian city. Okay, so Nineveh was an ancient Assyrian city. That's what it was. Alright, so back to this. This is in 612 BCE. Nineveh was sacked and burned by a coalition of Babylonians, Persians, Medes, and Scythians, among others, as was Ashur and the other cities of the Assyrian. All right, so other Assyrian cities got destroyed along with Nineveh. So it says the destruction of the palace brought the flaming walls down on the library of Ashur Banipal, which Ashur, I believe that name right there, that's like the name of the Assyrian gods. Okay, like you have Nabu. Nabu was one of the deities of the Babylonians. So it says, although it was far from the intention, preserved the great library and the history of the Syrians by baking hard and burying the clay tablet books. This I guess this is a scholar. This is thus did Assyria's enemies ultimately fail to achieve their aim when they raised Ashur and Nineveh in 612 BCE, only 15 years after Ashurbanipal's death, the wiping out of the Assyria's place in history. Still, the destruction of the great Assyrian cities was so complete that within two generations of the empire's fall, no one knew where the cities had been. The ruins of Nineveh were recovered by the sands and lay buried for the next 2,000 years. All right, so you see how it was a joint mission, it was a joint party of different nations. Right, you had the Babylonians, the Persians, the Medes, and the Scythians. They came together, which that was led by Nabopolassar King Nebuchadnezzar II, father, and then they went ahead and took them down. All right, so I have here the Battle of Nineveh, 612. This is determined to end Assyrian dominance in Mesopotamia. Babylonia led an alliance in an attack against the Syrian capital, Nineveh. All right, so you see that. So Nineveh is the capital. It's just the city was comprehensively sacked after a 3-month siege. Which what is a siege? Let's go ahead and look that up. Which a siege is coming to America real soon, and specifically for you so-called Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. What is a siege? A military operation in which enemy forces surround a town or building, cutting off essential supplies, and that's what's happening right now. Essential supplies is being cut off by that supply chain. It says with the aim of compelling the surrender of those inside. That's right. So that's what they did. They cut off supplies. That's why they, people who the siege is laid against, they stock up on different things, and they don't even leave. And they don't leave where they're at, or they'll get caught out there. So it says here, the city was comprehensively sacked after a 3-month siege, and the Syrian king Asen-Sar-Shukin was killed. Although his successor clung to power for a while, the days of Assyrian ascendancy were gone. In the early centuries of the second millennium BCE, Babylon had been the dominant power in Mesopotamia and the Middle East. Since then, the city had been increasingly marginalized. Its pride remained, and it had several times attempted to rise up against Assyrian domination, but it had never been close to succeeding. In 626 BCE, however, a new king, Nabopolassar, sensed that the hold of Assyrian's rulers was weakening, which I mentioned. Nabopolassar Nabopolassar, which he's the father of King Nebuchadnezzar II. And these were dark-skinned men, by the way. It says it took Nabopolassar 10 years to expel Assyrian forces from Babylonia itself. And in 616 BCE, he led an invasion of Assyria. By then, other discontent people were eager to enlist in the Babylonian cause, including several from what is now Iran. Soon, Nabopolassar was heading an army that included the people of Susa, a city-state in the foothills of the Zagros Mountains, and the Scythians, mounted nomads and formidable cavalrymen from the steppe. The Medes, a people from the plains of northwestern Iran, marched south to take the Syrians' original home city of Ashur in 614, after which they too struck an alliance with Nabopolassar. So just backing up, see how these different sources are lining up with each other. That's exactly what you want. You want your sources to line up with each other, letting you know that your history is on point. Because it's saying the same thing. The Medes, the Scythians, all right, King Nabopolassar, they all came together. They formed an alliance to take down the Syrian Empire. It says together under Babylonian leadership, the allies moved against the Syrian capital, Nineveh. Resistance was fierce, and it was 3 long months of fighting before it fell. The city was sacked, and Assyrian's king Senusar-Kusan killed. Even then, the Syrians rallied around a new would-be ruler, Ashur-Bal, but he was finally defeated in 608 BCE. All right, so the Heavenly Father was determined to take down the empire, which, like I said, scholars, they say that that's prophesied in the book of Nahum, because when you read the book of Nahum is prophesying the downfall of Nineveh. And scholars associate that with this, but like I said, if any elder, and I don't want to go off on a limb and say, okay, yeah, that was it right there. If any elder watches this, they can confirm that. So see that, so that paints the picture for Daniel 7, because me personally, I'm a brother that likes to know the who's and the what's and the where's. That's me, and that also backs up the scriptures, that actually backs up what we talk about. Okay, because you can't quote Daniel 7. Okay, yeah, it's talking about the Syrian Empire and then the wings plucked off. That was the Babylonians that did that. But you got to fact check everything. Like when you read the book of Acts 17th chapter, there's nothing wrong with checking behind your teachers. Which is Acts 17. Let's see here. All right. Yep. Acts 17, starting verse 10. And the brethren immediately sent away Paul and Silas by night unto Berea, who coming thither went into the synagogue of the Jews. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, and that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. See that? So they had to search the scriptures to see if what Paul and Silas were talking about was true. So yeah, like you gotta check the scriptures, right, just to see if everything is lining up correctly, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? And it says, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And who's the man's heart that was given to it? That was King Nebuchadnezzar, because after Nabopolassar, after he died, the kingdom was transferred to King Nebuchadnezzar, and he became the most dominant and the best king of the Babylonian Empire, right? So just going into Nabopolassar, see his son Nebuchadnezzar II. It says, after the death of the Syrian king Ashur-Bal in 631, the situation was confused, and the Babylonians revolted against their 2 Assyrian governors, Sinsamlasar, and Sensar-Shkan. The rebels defeated an Assyrian army, and the Babylonian general Nabopolassar was recognized as king on November 23rd, 626. Right, then it says August 605, death of Nabopolassar. Nebuchadnezzar becomes king. It's succeeded by his son Nebuchadnezzar II. All right. So 626, November 23rd, 626, Nebuchadnezzar becomes king of Babylonia. All right. Sack of Nineveh, the year 612, which when you read the book of Kings, like Second Kings, the 17th chapter, that's the same. That's the same Nebuchadnezzar, right? The best, who scholar says the best king to ever rule in that empire. So when you read Daniel, the second chapter, Daniel calls him what? The head of gold. Because gold is the most precious metal there is. It's Daniel chapter 2 and verse 36. It says, "This is the dream, and we would tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings. For the Most High of heaven have given thee a kingdom, power, strength, and glory. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and have made thee ruler over them all. Thou art his head of gold." See that? Symbolizing how glorious he was. And also, when you read Jeremiah, the 4th chapter, the 7th verse, a lot of brothers, they break this down, talking about how this is talking about how it's shot, but this is actually talking about King Nebuchadnezzar. Jeremiah 7:4 says, "The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is going forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy city shall be laid waste without an inhabitant." And because when you scroll up, it says Judah threatened with invasion. See that? So Jeremiah was prophesying the downfall of Judah. And who came up and besieged Jerusalem? Hey, it was King Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian army. Okay, so that's actually dealing with King Nebuchadnezzar. Like I said, a lot of brothers, they say, that's your Howard Shah. I remember I used to say that too. But that's actually talking about King Nebuchadnezzar when we read the scriptures. All right, see that Babylon controls Jehoiakim. 2 Kings 24:1. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant 3 years. Then he returned and rebelled against him. Daniel, the 1st chapter. Yep, Daniel 1:1. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into Jerusalem and besieged it. So see that? This is the same Nebuchadnezzar. And Daniel, the 7th chapter and the 4th verse. And also Daniel in the 2nd chapter as well. Okay? Where it says, and was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and the man's heart was given to it. All right? That's King Nebuchadnezzar right there. So let me read Daniel 7:4 again. Since the first was like a lion, it had eagle's wings, which dealing with the Assyrians. I beheld to the wings thereof were plucked. Exactly, the wings of the Syrian Empire were plucked, meaning what? They got defeated. And how were they defeated? They were defeated by King Nabopolassar, the father of King Nebuchadnezzar, with an alliance of different armies. In 612, they took them down. Right, so now we know the history behind it. And it says, "And may stand upon the feet as a man, and the man's heart was given to it," dealing with King Nebuchadnezzar II. Right? So that was just a little history I wanted to go on to. Not to make this too long, how I desire for brothers and sisters to edify. So next time, shalom.